sun starts breaking at dawn. Such a beautiful conditions of daybreak, the tobacco farmers working at PTPN 10 begin their activities. It is exactly at PTPN 10 that produces a qualified cigar tobacco leaves. It is started from a complete process of seedings by utilizing a special areas or ground called the seeding beds. The tobacco seedling comes from a superior tobacco seeds which had been selected in particular. Such a seeds is cultivated in the polybags by strictly environmental control in order that the seeds grows on a standard quality. After seeding or germination process, small tobacco plants are starting to plant on the prepared grounds. Planting system is carried out in accordance with the planting pattern which had been standardized by planting management at PTPN 10. Then such small tobacco plants are healthy growing to be high qualified tobacco leaves that are very rare found in other parts of the world. On the cultivation of qualified tobacco plants, here is mostly done by human hands. Clearing away of weeds are carried out by the experienced workers because this work must be carefully done in order to avoid damages on tobacco roots as well as leaves. Watering from the top and the bottom is done regularly almost every day due to the cigar tobacco plants need much water to grow. Sunray is very important factor for tobacco plants. For tobacco being planted under the special shade or protection or TBN, tobacco under protection, the sunray intensity to the tobacco leaves is intentionally reduced up to 30%. It is done in order that the width of tobacco leaves reach the wanted standard, that is as the cigar deck blade. That's why the width of tobacco leaves must be fulfilled without losing a typical taste. On early August, the tobacco plants have reached the maximum height. At this stage, a process of picking the leaves or harvesting can be started. Harvesting is very carefully carried out by women's hands and not in a hurry because the quality of tobacco leaves will fall down if it is done in wrong ways. Picking the leaves from the tobacco plant can be done and started only at 5:30 to 8 in the morning. That is the important conditions to get the best result or harvest. After being picked by women's hands professionally, the leaves are put into the prepared and special baskets, then taken into drying storehouse to get the curing process. The drying storehouse is a typical building that is built from the bamboo frame and the cane leaves roof. For many years, about 125 years ago until now, the building construction model is relatively unchanged. From the garden, the picked leaves was carried to the storehouse to the storing division. Here, the leaves are carefully grouped in accordance with the size and other physical characteristics. Such leaves are then pricked with special needle and its string or something alike. The ropes that have united some tobacco leaves then stretched and hung on the racks made from bamboo. those leaves are still on the racks during 20 to 22 days. In that period of time, expertise of the workers who manage this process is slightly decisive. With the workers' experience and intuition, they will decide when the curing is needed, which is related to the ideal degree of humidity. The unsuitable degree of humidity will cause the growing of fungi or other causes which decrease the quality of tobacco leaves processing. After the amount of time is fulfilled, it is very clear the change of the basic color, that is from fresh green, becomes brown of cigar color. Finally, the stage process in the curing storehouse has finished. Like the other morning, the women begin their daily activity by working at the processing of the cigar tobacco leaves. After doing the curing process, then those tobacco leaves are handled and brought by hundreds of skilled women. Firstly, those tobacco leaves will be through the filtering or grouping again. This grouping is carefully carried out and by the only unique management pattern owned by PTPN X Ajung. The next phase then is fermentation. This phase is very significant in determining the qualified tobacco leaves for deck blade or cigar wrapper. In the big room that is used special for fermentation process, the tobacco leaves which have been through the previous phase are arranged lining by lining, shaping a heap of tobacco leaves in the square form. Paying a special attention here is the humidity control in the fermentation room and temperature of such a heap of tobacco leaves therein. The temperature is hoped to increase constantly till a certain degree on each phase of fermentation. Other important things to know is that the way of arranging the lining of tobacco leaves. The arrangement must be carried out carefully to avoid damaging, such as the torn leaves and the like. The phase of fermentation can be done many times until the tobacco leaves condition reach the wanted standard. The next phases is the opening pieces of tobacco leaves on which at the fermentation process is on the tangled folding. Then the leaves are arranged neatly or at the local term called bir-bir. For this process, the tobacco leaves from the fermentation rooms are entered into a special room to be humidified. This thing makes easy at the process of bir-bir that will be done later. For this phase is needed a great number of women's workers. In one room is more or less 200 women's workers, and all of them do the same work. Then it comes to the next phase, that is the sorting phase. Then from this phase will be resulted the final product. Sorting is a skillful work which needs special experience for workers as well as their numbers. Besides, it needs a keen and good sight of workers. The process must be carried out in the room being designed in order to be able to constantly look at the object precisely. For this purpose is fixed the glass roof with the direction and certain angles to the sun so that the constant rays intensity for lighting can be got. It is crucial things because sorting is mainly connecting with the color of tobacco leaves and other physical characteristics such as small spots, oil spots and other leaf damages. The color of tobacco leaves for common people will be seen differently in the morning and at the afternoon. At the end of this sorting, we'll get some source of tobacco products leaves from PTPN X Ajung. The most effort to produce here is the tobacco leaf special for deck blade with the quality and the most popular taste in the worldwide. After sorting process, the tobacco leaves is ready to market. Traditionally, tobacco leaves produced by PTPN X Ajung is sold through the auction sale in the very popular place, i.e. Bremen, Germany. But at the later years, the buyers tend to go directly to the production center such as in Jember or Klaten and directly negotiate to have buying transaction. The market share dominated by Indonesia for the cigar tobacco leaves is nearly a half of world's need, or about 44%. The majority of the traditional buyers are from Europe, such as Max Berger from Swiss, Agio from Holland, Seita from French, Match from Sweden, and others. Today, the great potential market and start to handle seriously by PTPN X Ajung is American market. In Klaten, Central Java, PTPN X Ajung planted 3 kinds of tobacco, i.e. VBN or London under protection or shade, FIK or fig planted under protection that becomes a very qualified seeds from connected, and Forsten London Nose, that is Forsten London being planted traditionally. In Jember, PTPN 10 also planted the three kinds of tobacco, that is TBN Besuki type, which is planted under protection, FIN or Fin, that is also planted under protection and becomes superior seeds coming from Sumatra, Besuki Naus, i.e. the tobacco of Besuki type planted traditionally by people. The tobacco produced by PTPN 10 have been exported to all over the world. The traditional European market for PTPN 10 product is Swiss, Germany, Holland, French, Spain, Denmark, Belgium, and Canary Island. Other markets in America are Tampa, Richmond, Lancaster, Connecticut, Republic of Dominica, while market in Africa is Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. In Asia is Japan. Purportedly, the Asian women's hands are too small to be able to make the big size cigars. It is of course untrue, and it has been proved by some beautiful women in Jember. From their skilled hands, the best cigars can be produced and satisfy the consumers, either for the need of the locals or for export consumption to other countries.